Yeah, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about the future. I want to talk about the immediate future. But I mean, obviously, it's a big step for our program. Hockey East has been outstanding, and we still are a member of that league for another season, and we're representing her proud right now. And there's just like the last time we made a move, I'm going to be sentimental in some ways, just because you develop relationships. Mostly for me, I mean, it's with coaches, and I have strong ties with 3 or 4 of the coaches in Hockey East, and that'll continue. And in fact, they were the ones that called me last night once they caught word of it. And I mean, we're going to have a continued relationship with some of those programs, more in a non-conference role in the future. But it's also a great opportunity for our team. I think it's going to be great for our fans, as far as they're going to, every opponent coming in our building conference-wise, I mean, they're going to know. And I think that at times that's been a factor over the last several years, even in the CCHA. There's just name identification with our fans. So, and frankly, more importantly, as fortunate as we are being at Notre Dame and being able to travel first class, and it still wears on you as the season progresses when you're traveling out east several times during the year. We travel first class, but it's still travel, and it does wear on you a bit. And I think more importantly, it's going to allow our players, parents, and not just our fans, but our parents and our recruiting is all still tied to the Midwest, and it's certainly going to have a positive impact in both those areas. But as I said, I mean, that's something to look towards and excited about the future. That conference is only going to get better and better as time goes on. There's very rich traditions at every one of those programs, maybe with the exception of the one that's most recent. They haven't had a chance to build a tradition yet. But, there's great hockey traditions at Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota, excuse me, and Michigan State. I mean, they have great hockey traditions. And I know it's going to be could you give me a water, Dan, please? I'm sorry, I have strep throat right now, and I have a pink eye too, so I'm not in the best of shape, but I'm losing my voice. But as I said, I mean, it's going to be great. I think for us, playing in great venues and big crowds everywhere we go, and it'll be a challenge, frankly. I mean, we've played in Minnesota in recent years. We've played at Penn State this past year. Thank you. And it'll be a big challenge. But most importantly, as I said, right now we're still a member of Hockey East and proud of it. And, we've got another season to play in that league. And it's, without question, it's been the best league in the country for a number of years.
How hard is it to walk away from that caliber of competition and come back to a league of 16s that right now isn't at that level?
Well, you don't know where they're going to be 2 years from now. I mean, like I said, Wisconsin's going to be making a coaching change. Minnesota's always traditionally one of the top teams in the country. Michigan is traditionally one of the top teams in the country. It's only a matter of time before Wisconsin and Michigan State get back on track. And there's great young coaches both at Penn State and Ohio State. Penn State's made great strides in a matter of 3 years in their program. So I would expect that the Big Ten, once things settle down, the dust settles down. I mean, it's impacted everyone. It's impacted us. I look at Miami of Ohio. Changing conferences impacted a lot of our programs. Western Michigan. I mean, these are all programs that have traditionally been very, very good, and it's been hard. It's been hard for a lot of our programs, including the Big Ten schools. Once we got away from the the WCHA and the CCHA, it's been hard. And and we're just very fortunate that we had a welcoming partner in Hockey East, and yes, that's been hard. I mean, that conference top to bottom is as good as we've played since I've been here. So it has been a challenge, but this is about the long-term position of our program, going in with all power conference teams. There's a lot of things potentially. I mean, there's legislation on the line right now that the Big Ten's supporting, and we support that legislation. I think that we're in with like-minded schools. Not that we weren't with BC and BU and Providence. I mean, But the thing is that it's probably a little bit more tied to, our Midwestern ties, both from our team's perspective, our players, their parents, our recruiting, and if it could have happened a few years ago, it might have happened a few years ago, but at that time it didn't. So, we'll move forward, and I mentioned yesterday my resume is going to look like a crossword puzzle by the time I leave Notre Dame.
Is it fitting that Michigan's the opponent then here this week? That you guys kind of kickstart the rivalry back up again?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen Michigan in 3 years, and they've traditionally been the same type of teams, overly talented and fast, and yeah, it's I'm actually in some ways I'm a little sentimental if there's a chance that Coach Berenson steps down at the end of this year, retires. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation about that, but I mean, I've had great games against Michigan, whether at Lake Superior or here at Notre Dame, and him and I have a good relationship, and I have a lot of respect for that program. I started my college coaching career at Michigan as a grad assistant, so there's a lot of ties. I'm a Michiganian, even though I'm a Spartan inside and out, except for when Notre Dame plays them. I think that there's a lot of tradition there for me. So playing them is always a big time game, and they're always a big time opponent, and it's always really good hockey.
And how much did the program kind of miss playing them every year in Michigan State and Ohio State, just those CCHA teams that you kind of talked about being the Midwest roots and teams that the fans knew you guys were going to play every year?
Well, it's been difficult not playing them, and we were rotating. Michigan State was rotating into our schedule here in a few years anyways, non-conference, but now those will become conference games. We rotated Penn State into our scheduling, and now those will become conference games, except for next year, Penn State will be here. And then, Michigan, it's been disappointing not playing Michigan because we've had such great games with them, and it's been disappointing, but on the other side of that, I mean, we've developed some pretty good games against BC and Boston University and Providence College, and a lot of the top teams in Hockey East. So, and hopefully we'll be able to continue those relationships as we move forward.
Looking at Michigan, where are they dangerous?
Wherever they skate, they're dangerous. Hey, they've got the best line in college hockey. They may have the best player. They certainly have the best freshman. He may be both. But they're not just a one-line team. They're not one-dimensional. They've got a good back end. They've got some really talented defensemen. Their goaltending has been much improved. They're a very, very talented offensive team. And they want to beat you 6-5 or 6-3 or 6-0, but they want to beat you. They want to score goals, and they're averaging. I can't remember a college hockey team averaging close to 5 goals a game. So. And they have the best power play in the country, so they're a real challenge for us. But I'm hoping that our guys are up for that challenge.
Mentally, kind of the way that you guys kind of ended the Hockey East tournament. Where's your team at mentally right now heading into the national team?
Well, if anything, the time off has maybe given me a chance to psychologically, try to exercise the demons, because it's not. I don't think it's a physical thing. I think it's, I've talked about it in the past. I mean, I'm trying to encourage these guys to become juniors and seniors that are freshmen and sophomores, And, the biggest thing for us is that we need to get those kids that had great first halves for us, and in fact, all the way through January and even early February, the Anders Bjorks of the world and the Jake Evans of the world and Connor Hurley's and Jordan Grosses, all those guys, those sophomores and the freshmen as well. We need them to be at a high level. I think our leadership group, I think our seniors, and I think Justin Wade, the one junior that's playing on a consistent basis, I think that they've contributed almost every game that we've played. It's those young guys that had great first halves for us that we have to hope that they become men this weekend. That's what has to happen, because they're the guys that really allowed us to be in this position in the first place. As the sophomore class and the freshman class. The seniors obviously led the way, but it's those kids that have helped us more offensively than maybe, than we expected going into the season, and what kind of an impact our young players were going to have.
Did you try to get Michigan on the schedule in the last couple of years since CCHA?
We've been talking back and forth to them. I don't think that was even a possibility when they had their previous athletic director. so much stuff that I've learned since I've been at Notre Dame is tied to football in many ways. We've reached out to the coaching staff, but they pretty much told us that they were not allowed to schedule us. So I think that was going to change, though, now. I think that we could have been potentially in position to schedule them in the future. Like I said, it's certainly not anything regarding the programs or the coaches.
Jeff, it's been a little while since you guys won NCAA tournament game, not to bring up bad subjects, but this senior class hasn't won an NCAA tournament. Do you think that's something, maybe it's not on their mind, but a motivator as they headed into the season, or something that they've talked about?
Well, I think, hey, these guys, this senior class has done a phenomenal job. It's the first time I've ever had a group of leaders that all supported each other. They cared about each other. They battled for each other. They tried to help groom the freshmen. They got our culture back on track. They've done a tremendous job, and they're varied in their talent level, their ability level. But one thing they all have is character, and they've done a great job in molding this young group to get us to the national tournament, to get us, to get us a bye in the Hockey East, playoffs. So they deserve a lot of credit for that, and they've certainly contributed on the ice. But I think they've always felt like they had a chance to, groom this into being a really good team, and they've made this team very close. They're very tight. And I think that it'd be great for them. I'm just grateful they had a chance to make the NCAA tournament in their senior year, and now I'd like to have them. I'd like to see them rewarded for that too.
Obviously, the last time you guys played Michigan in the tournament, maybe the most important game in this program's history at that time. Just what are your memories of that moment now that it's been in the past a little while?
It was a funny game. I mean, we got up to a big lead on them, which was unexpected, and they come roaring back and tied it. I think it was like 4-goal lead, and they came back and tied it eventually. And then overtime, a fourth line, left winger from Sweden that didn't play every game during the year and probably only had 3 goals, I think, in the season, or 2 goals on the season, scored 2 goals in that game. And that was our fourth line on the ice, and that's been kind of the trademark of our team, is when we're a good four-line team, is when we're usually the best.
Going back to that senior group, what do you want their message to be to a lot of these younger guys who have never even been to the NCAA tournament before?
Well, I kind of gave them that message myself today, but I think they can reiterate the fact that, hey, listen, every one of these kids have been big in big environments. They've played for USHL championships. They've played for gold medals. They've been there before. They've been there somewhere in their careers before, and they got to bring that back to their memory. We have to remember too, Michigan hasn't been into the national tournament in 3 years either. So it's not just about us. And the other thing is too, I mean, Providence College did pretty well with no experience last year, and I think that the way that the NCAA tournament's gone over the last 3 years is a good indication that it doesn't matter if you're a first seed, a 16th seed, it doesn't matter who you are, that if everything falls in place, if you get the breaks, if you get if things go your way, then anything's possible. And hey, listen, it wouldn't matter if we were a 1 seed to me, because I don't think there's any soft games in this tournament.
Think back to a few years ago when you guys were in Toledo and how kind of desolate it was in there in terms of fans, and is there any part of your preparation in blocking out what is or is not going on around the rink?
I think that becomes, and this goes back to our new conference affiliation, is that I think it goes back to the opponent too. I think that, and certainly not out of disrespect for St. Cloud State. I mean, they're one of the best programs traditionally in the last 5 years in the country. But I mean, for our guys, I think they won't notice how many people are in the stands against Michigan. And frankly, the only thing I've tried to prepare them for is 2-minute TV timeouts, which kind of makes the game very methodical at times.
Do you think that's an advantage in slowing down a high-scoring team like Michigan at all?
It's slowing us down too.
Just one more question, kind of big picture perspective, with changing conferences. Does that alter your recruiting strategy in any way, like hockey's maybe a specific style?
No, I think it's going to help our recruiting. I mean, it didn't really. I mean, hockey. The only thing we did differently is we changed our philosophy on the type of defenseman we were recruiting, and I don't think that's going to be a factor as we move into the Big Ten.
Will you change that philosophy
You know, we may start looking bigger again a little bit, you know, but we still have to have mobility back there. I mean, we still want to be a good transitional team, you know, but, you know, right now we've got 3 smaller guys, and one of them doesn't play because of it. Unfortunately, Tony Bretzman's probably could play for us, but we're playing the 2 guys that have the best offensive abilities back there, and, you know, we're hoping Dennis Gilbert, as a bigger guy, can develop those skills over time. We're bringing in a couple pretty good guys next year, one more defensive-minded, one that, you know, like Gilbert. So, you know, I think it's, you know, and they're both bigger guys, so I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. The thing that's going to help us, though, is hey, listen, we're going to start recruiting in Michigan again. You know, we've been out of Michigan for a few years. Part of it's because of the Ontario Hockey League, but part of it's just a hard nut to crack. But, you know, we've been recruiting in Minnesota. It's probably going to help us there. You know, I think it's going to help us in the Midwest, you know, and Ontario potentially. So, you know, it doesn't have that much of a different change in our philosophy in recruiting. They still have to have good grade point averages.
Did you ever see any head roads out east at all during your time in Hockey East? I mean, I know it was...
Any what?
Head roads in terms of recruiting, trying to get in.
It might have helped us. I mean, there's a few guys that we've committed in the last year here. I think only one of them signed, so I don't think I can even talk about the other ones. But we've gotten a few Eastern kids, one Eastern Canadian boy and a couple Eastern U.S. kids. I mean, Hockey East we did, you know, we sold Hockey East. You know, we had a reason to. So, you know, it's I don't think that it's going to impact us that much.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach.